Okay. Hello. Anybody here? I don't know. Alrighty. We're about to get fired up here. I'm not sure if chat is working. Hopefully, maybe something. I don't know. This is somewhat confusing at times. Okay, looks like I can see chat. Yay. Good. Hey, Sam. Okay. I'm about to get fired up here. We'll go. It may take people a few minutes to realize that we're switched over to YouTube. I dropped a note where I could. We will have to see what goes on here. Everybody surviving coronavirus, people working from home, doing all that fun stuff. Alrighty. I'm going to be way zoomed in today as much as I can, kind of realistically on the face. I'm going to be working more like this, I think. We'll see. So, yeah, we'll make it work. Give people a few minutes before they figure out where we're at and whatnot, and then we will start on the face. I'm not sure how long today is going to take. Okay. I know there's at least a few people who were planning on watching. Twitch was just being super stupid. I mean, just really dumb. It kept dropping everything. And I know it's not me because I go to stream here and it's just perfect. Like I get thousands and thousands of kilobits per second, and on Twitch it's like nothing. So I know that it's not me. I'm hoping that this works fine. I know at least one or two people are planning on showing up here, and then we will get moving. Go ahead and cover what colors we're going to be using here. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Gonna get ready. Where's my water? I should have gotten some fresh water for this, but that's okay. We'll make do. Alrighty. Alright, so we're going to be covering the face today, right? So on Mr. Hill Giant here. We covered the skin before. This is we could take this kind of as far as we wanted to go on the skin. It'll look a lot better once everything else is painted. It'll be a lot more in context. Um, I would smooth this out a lot more if I was doing like a competition piece or something. There'd be a lot more time in this, but the process would be the exact same. Nothing would change about that. Yeah. So let's cover what colors we're going to use today. We're going to have more of our bronze skin triad, right? So this is a great triad for, these are great skin tones if you're doing anything that's outdoors a lot. They have a tan triad. Hey, Amy. They have a tan triad too that's supposed to be kind of like an outdoors triad. I'm not a huge fan of it. Some people really like it. We're going to use splintered bone today. If you want to, you can use linen white. Actually, I take that back. We're going to need both. I forgot that we're doing something. Use linen white and splintered bone. Nothing. I'm just going over colors. So we're going to use this for the eyes because there's no yellow in it. We don't really want yellow in our eyes. It tends to make you look jaundiced. But if you don't have this, you can use white or linen white if you really have it. I just prefer not to use like a super stark white because it makes the eyes too unnaturally bright. So do this. We'll have some yellow or some red and some purple, clear purple. Probably have a little bit of yellow. I'm not entirely sure on that yet. And then maybe some clear blue and some nightmare black. So we really haven't done anything with the face here. I think when we were doing the skin tones, we said, well, let's put a little bit of, let's kind of overbrush just real roughly on him, and we'll do that. So we're going to kind of cover, hey, Brad. We're going to kind of cover it in the same way, working up with glazes, but it's going to be a little less, what's the word? A little less thin glazes, and we're going to make some more drastic things because we really haven't done anything at all. I'm going to try to keep on camera here, but I'm also trying to keep him in a position where I can actually paint the face. So we will see how that goes. Because I've got to be close enough. I'm going to try not to bump the camera. And then we will see how it goes. All right. Oh, trying to move the camera here. All right, guys. All right. So let's put some of our skin tones down on our palette here first. We got our highlight color. Boom. It's clogged. Where's my declogger thing? Got a pin around here somewhere. But it seems to have scampered off. Scampered. I hate when it scampers. Alright, I got one of these though. This is like massive overkill for this. I could find my little poker tool. Not a Reaper for official poker tool. But it works. Alrighty. We're putting some down there. We are going to put some of our skin tone down. Some of our shadow. Always shake your paints at least a little when you get them out. Paint tends to settle, and then you it doesn't work as well when it's settled. We're going to use this for the eyes. And we're going to use our nightmare black for the black. You can use a true black, that's fine too if you happen to have an actual black. Hey, how are you? And then we'll bust out the other colors as we want. This one clogged too. But the only thing that I really hate about some of these paints is, good gracious, they clog easily, don't they? I haven't met a dropper bottle. I haven't met a paint bottle of some kind that doesn't have issues, though. Every single brand of some kind has issues. It's just sometimes it's a different issue. So, all right, we've got a paper towel over here. I've got water up here off camera. It's just like right there. All it is just normal water there. Okay. Yay, welcome. All right, so we've got kind of a few options here as far as how to tackle this guy first and how we want to do this. I kind of recommend doing his eyes first, but it does mean you're going to have to be more careful with the rest of the face. So yeah, the flip tops. The only thing that I'll say is that the Chimera have flip tops as well. And what tends to happen is two things. A, it gets super crusty around here, and that becomes a problem at times. And then two, what happens sometimes is when you flip it close like that, paint splatters out like that. And so what I recommend is when you close the flip tops, like close them away from anything you care about, or close them into a paper towel, because sometimes they splatter when they close. I have a couple of different paints that come in flip tops, and they all have that same issue. So yeah, you can end up with very unintentional splatter if you're not correctly with the flip tops. Okay, so eyes. I guess we'll do eyes first. Eyes first is the way to do eyes if you are not very good with exactly. You have specs on my keyboard. Yep. Eyes first is the way to do eyes if you don't have a lot of brush control. Okay. So if you feel like you're not at the point where brush control is a thing that you do well, trying to figure out how to paint this on camera. All right. Then tackle eyes first. So what we're going to do with the eyes is we're going to paint them white first. We're just going to thin out our white just a little bit here. This is that splintered bone. Not a super stark white, but it's pretty white. And then make sure you cover the entire socket with white. I'm going to try to be on camera here, guys. You can overbrush as much as you want here. Just make sure you cover the whole thing. Just don't go nuts. Like, you want to cover the whole thing, but without. I think we all need help with eyes, Sam. Just don't go nuts and like cover the entire area. You're just gonna make your life more difficult. Okay. So the important thing with working with faces is that you can't rush it. Since we're working in small areas, so normally when we're working on skin or something, what happens is we're painting a little here, we're painting a little here, we're painting a little here, we're painting all over. So by the time we come back to one of these other areas, it's already dry. Okay. What happens with faces, unfortunately, is that by the time you paint this and then you paint this, a lot of times this is not dry yet. So if that's not dry and we go back and we mess with it, then it tends to cause texture. So you have to be a little more patient with faces because you need to make sure that you're giving paint time to dry. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come in with a little bit of black. In this case, I'm just using my Nightmare Black. You've got real black, that's fine too. And we're just going to put, sorry, my mic keeps hitting this dang camera because I'm trying to zoom in so much. And we're just gonna put a little out there, right? And then we're just gonna put a little dot, right? Okay. So here's the deal. Don't just do a really tiny dot. It's gonna make him look like he has way too much coffee, or he's deer in headlights, or anything like that, and that's not what we want. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to kind of go back now, and we're going to redefine the shape of the eye with a real dark color. So we're going to take some of our darkest shadow, mix this with a little bit of our black here. We get kind of that dark green. That'll work just fine here. And then we're just going to come back in and we're just going to make sure that he has a real nice shape of his eye. Okay. The eyes on this model are actually super teeny tiny. Okay. And we're not going to let them be that small. So we're kind of shaping them however we want them to be right now. Okay, make sure you get the top edge underneath as well. Underneath that eyebrow. Because what happens is if white gets up there, if white gets up in this part right up in here and you haven't darkened it up, then he's going to look really funky. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to keep on camera. It's hard because I'm zoomed way in here. Okay. So now the important step here is to let this dry. Like, don't go immediately back into this or you're going to really run into problems. Okay. It's not going to take long. Just, be patient. There's a lot of texture. There's a lot of details on his eyelids. He's got upper and lower eyelids actually sculpted in. If you feel like you can hit the detail on those, you go for it. I'm not sure I can do that on camera. I can do that. I'm not sure I can do that on camera. So yeah, we're gonna probably not gonna mess with some of the super fine details around the eyes on camera. So I'm taking a little bit of my mid-tone skin here, and then we're gonna clean that up with the mid-tone. Okay. And at this point, it's probably gonna take a layer or two. And what we want to try to do though is leave a fairly dark ring around his eye, because it's going to really draw the attention to the eye. But what we don't want to do is leave it real thick. It's got to be pretty thin. I usually do as thin as I can possibly get it. And then again, we've got to wait. Okay. So if you feel capable, you can go ahead and try to dot the white on the eye. When you're trying to dot the white on the eye, only get it on just the barest tip of your brush. Don't load up a full brush for that. Only get it on just the barest tip of the brush. And then come in and try to hit black of the eye with the smallest dot you can in the black of the eye. Okay? And that's just going to give him a little bit more life. That's the reflection. It's not going to be super noticeable, especially on this model. Okay. All right, so we need to come back in with our skin, do one more layer around there to kind of define that. And then what we'll do is we'll start working on the volumes of the face. I really recommend you not do all of this with the world's smallest brush. Like, don't try to paint faces with something like a 10/0 or something like that. You're just making it harder on yourself than you've got to be, because the paint dries on the tip of the brush so bad. I'm actually using a 2 from Raphael 84L4. Let me show you what some other brushes look by comparison, so you can see kind of how big this actually is. Because I have some teeny tiny brushes that I never ever use anymore, but I have them. And then I will show you, and you will see what they look like by comparison. One second, I'm just digging out some brushes here just to see. Okay, here we go. Here's a few good examples, so you can see how big the brush is that we're using. And you can see I did eyes with that too. Okay, so this one is a Rosemary & Co. size 1. Okay, this is an excellent brush. If you're a real thin painter, excellent brush. They hold a point well. They just don't have nearly as big of a belly as the Raphaels that I like. The belly refers to this middle part of the brush right here. This is a Rosemary & Co. 3.0. I never go this small anymore. In fact, I rarely go this small. Like, this is a tiny brush to me. And then this is a Rosemary & Co. 10.0. Okay, so you can see here 10.0. So this is a teeny tiny brush. All right, now let's put these up next to the brush that I'm actually using to do all of this. Okay. So this is what I consider a small brush. This is what I'm actually painting the face, and this is what people try to paint the face with. Okay. You try to paint the face with this brush, it's going to take forever and your paint is constantly going to dry out on your brush. It's this weird thing where people think teeny tiny brushes make things easier, but if you look at the tip, like look at the just the very point of that brush, it's razor sharp. It's just as sharp as these other ones. It just comes to a point at the very, very, very end. Okay? So the tip of this brush is just as sharp as this brush. The only difference is because this has such a big body, it doesn't dry out as fast. Okay? It takes more practice, it takes more finesse to paint with this guy, but he's going to make your life much, much easier. This guy is going to dry out, and so you're going to end up doing dot by dot by dot. And so some people feel like that's easier. You're just making your life harder. All right. Let's go onward. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of defining the volumes of the face. So what that means is dark parts, light parts, stuff like that, right? So generally what happens is there's going to be light under here. It's going to be light under here. We're going to be lighter up here, lighter along the nose, some light right here, a little bit down here, and then mid-tones other places, and then darker under the cheeks, darker down in here, under there. I'll show you. So let's just start. Let's get some mid-tone down on places where we know. I like to paint from mid-tones on the face. I think if you paint dark to light on the face, then you end up making the entire face much too dark often enough. You don't go light enough on the face. I generally think that's very true of starting light in general, is that people often, when they paint, all I've got is a little bit of thin mid-tone here. We're not going super thick on paint, but we're not going super thin. This is not a glaze. This is just a little bit of water in the brush. Okay. I'm going to add one more light here. It's going to make this a little easier with one more light. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. All we're doing is coming in and just putting some mid-tone down where we kind of think, now I need a vote. Does this guy shave or does he have stubble? Do we want stubble or does he shave? Okay. So if you're in the chat, talk to me. Let me know if you think he should shave or not. Okay, so we got some mid-tone down on the face there. Let's bring in some of our highlight color. He's already got a lot of highlights. Stubble. All right, stubble it is apparently. You guys don't think ogres, you guys have low opinions of ogres. All we're doing, we're just coming back in here and we're adding in some of our highlight. So what we're going to do, we want his nose. We're highlighting along his nose, right? The top, the two little dots on the side here, and then we're going to come over in his cheekbone. We're just doing little dots here, okay? We'll make all this nice and blended in as we need to as we progress. Which means there's going to be a little back and forth. We're just trying to get him. We're just doing dots, it's not a sweeping stroke here, right? Okay. Alright. Then let's catch the edge of his mouth. If you guys want stubble, we'll do stubble in a moment then. Alright. Let's go back down. Let's catch some of our shadow here. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do our volumes, and then afterwards we're going to come back in and add color. So I'm just thinning out this a little bit. And then we're going to come back in. We're going to basically paint these shadows upside down, because it's a little easier to get to places. And we're going to hit the under part of his cheeks. We're going to hit, under his nose there, right? Okay. Under part of his cheeks. He doesn't have time. He's got ogre things to do. Handlebar mustache. I don't know that the sculpt would very easily support a handlebar mustache. Let's add a little bit of the shadow color right under there. There's a lot of things you can paint on a sculpt. We're going to add a little bit of the shadow by his, the inside of his nose here, right? So like right on the inside here. Okay. Other side. I'm trying to stay on camera, guys. Okay, right in here. Okay. You can see his face is starting to come together. We got a little bit of the shadow color, probably a little too high. So we're going to come back in with our mid-tone here. And just kind of blend that out a little bit. Make it not so stark here. We're not going to do too much down around his mouth. If you guys want stubble, then that means that we're going to have to do some stuff there. I'm just coming back in with my mid-tone, smoothing out some of the things that maybe I got a shadow where I didn't want or whatever. Mid-tone is great to kind of smooth things out and then work back up to your highlights. If you try to smooth something out with your highlights, it's just going to go poorly. So let's take some of our highlight again, add some mid-tone. Let's make it a little less stark. We're going to go back over a few places here. We're going to do our dots here. This is always going to be a little bit of back and forth when you want something to look smooth like this. We're just adding some of these along his forehead here. Okay, along his nose, right? My motion is little dots. This is called stippling. He's got kind of a ridge here on his forehead, so we're kind of accentuating that. Okay. We're stippling in all of these highlights. So people ask, how do you not have brush strokes on stuff? That's part of it, is because a lot of times I'm not actually stroking. A lot of times I'm not actually doing major strokes with the brush. I'm doing more dots. And after talking with a lot of painters, I find that's really common. And when you see other painters online, it's really common too. This is a little too hard of an edge right there. I just put a little bit of my mid-tone along that. I'm just going to smooth that out. I'm going to come back in with a little bit of my shadow here and just add some more in the deeper parts here. See, he's getting there. Okay. He's looking a little orange-faced from some angles, but when you look at him at a normal angle, let me see if I can get that. Yeah, he's getting there. All right, we're going to mix a little bit of our blue into our shadow, make a real dark color, and hit, but we're going to do this as a glaze, because we don't want this to be super stark. And we're just going to come in, and we're just going to darken up just a few of these places, and we're probably going to have to reinforce them with some midtones afterwards, because they're getting a few places, but that's okay. Just darkening up a little bit of the under his cheekbones, down in the eye sockets, under his nose, the real deepest shadows here. Okay? All right. We're going to work up now. Start working up real high on the highlights. Okay. So this is our thing. We're just doing real small dots here. This is our highlight color. We're covering a little bit less with this. Right? We're just working this back up. We'll see what's going to happen with his jaw when we go to do the stubble. Okay. We're going to take just a little bit of the yellow here. This is not a resin print. This is a Reaper Hill Giant. We're going to take a little bit of the yellow. Historically, faces have that are outside have a lot of yellow in the forehead areas. So I've just made a really thin, super thin glaze of yellow, right? Okay, and we're just going to just let him be a little warmer up top here. So just putting some yellow up top. It's, if you look at that and say, wow, that's yellow, that's too much. Like, it should be super subtle. Okay. Right. All right, so we're doing that. All right, now what we're going to do, we're going to work up one more with just the highlight color here. And we're just adding little dots here. Right. Okay, then we're going to take some of our linen white. I'm going to mix that with our highlight, and probably you can see it's a lot lighter than this. Okay, but it's not that close to linen white. Like, this is linen white, this is this. So it's definitely brighter than our highlight, but it's not anywhere close to linen white. It's probably 3 to 1, if not less than that, as far as 3 drops of the highlight, 1 drop of linen white. And then we're just going to do some of our more extreme highlights. You want the outside of this cheekbone. You want just, when you're watching this and you're doing, pay real close attention to where I'm putting these highlights. It's the outside of the, it's not the whole thing. It's just that little corner edge there. Okay. We're going to catch this top bump on his nose, because we don't want him to have, if the most extreme highlight is the tip of the nose, it gives him a real long nose. And he's got more of a bulbous nose. So what we want is, we want to create the effect that the brightest part is a little higher up. So we're catching that part, and then we're catching just the 2 little dots, his 2 little bumps on the side, a little bit up on the top. Right? Alright. Yeah. Alright, so now you guys want stubble. Okay, so we're going to take some of our midtone here. Right? We're going to mix it with a little tiny bit of our blue black, our nightmare black. Okay. It's got to be real thin. This is going to be a glaze, guys. Okay. And it's this blue black that causes it to have that stubbly look. If you go too far here, it'll look weird. And then we're just going to come down here and we're just going to start laying this kind of muted blue-black skin tone down here. It's going to be kind of a greenish blue. Okay. And it's just going to give him this look. The danger with this, again, is not waiting long enough. Okay. I'm not in love with his cheekbones here. We're going to come back in. We're going to soften them a little bit with a little bit of our midtone here. And all we're going to do is take our midtone and kind of run it along this edge here. Am I on camera? I am. We're going to run it along the edge where these 2 meet. Because I feel like ogres don't have like super high lady cheekbones. So if you make the cheekbones super dark and meet to super light, it gives you really high cheekbones. Okay? Like a fancy, Renaissance lady would have, or something like that. We don't really want that, right? Okay. So we're going to take our blue-black glaze that we did with our skin tone. We're just going to throw probably 1 more coat on it. What this does is it just creates the See how it just grays him out just a little bit. This especially works well because he's got a very orange skin tone. Okay. Thinning the paint. I'm just we're doing a layer consistency here, so there's just a little bit of water on my paintbrush. None of these are thinned. There's just a little. I'm just taking whatever water is in my paintbrush and adding it. Okay, it's really not very thin for most of this. If I talk about making a glaze, then I'm adding a lot. So like the yellow here, our glaze for our stubble, those are much thinner. Okay. Okay. We're going to take a little bit of our linen white here. We're going to make this really, that was too thin. Not a glaze, but pretty thin here. Okay, so between a layer and glaze. And we're just going to add a few dots of just pure linen white. So we just hit this top of the thing right here of his nose. We're just going to hit this outside corner of his cheekbones. A little bit on the forehead up here. Okay. All right. Now, what he needs is we need to cover the ear. Ears, I'll tell you right now, don't ever spend too much time painting ears. Nobody cares about ears. We're gonna take just some of our thing. If you're like me and you've kind of dry brushed it a little bit like we did before, a lot of your ears should already be done. We're just going to pick them up, kind of highlight a little bit of places. So I went in there with a little bit of mid-tone, and then all we're going to do is take our highlight color and just grab the top of these ears. We don't want the ears as something to stick out, right? So you should never look at a model and be like, man, that guy has some fabulous lobes. This is not a Ferengi. He's not got killer lobes. Okay? Alrighty. So at this point, we need to start thinking about color on his thing. We're not going to paint the hair this time. We're going to paint the hair next time because he's got a little hair all over his body. But we might block in the hair so that we can kind of see how that reacts. We'll see. Let's go ahead and paint the teeth. We're going to grab some of our splintered bone here. And he has individual teeth. I recommend try to pick them out just with this splintered bone. I would not recommend spending a lot of time on his teeth. There you go. See, that's all we're gonna do. Fabulous lobes. So I would not put a bunch of layers down. Don't bother with a wash, that kind of thing. We're gonna take and we're gonna highlight a little bit of his thing. So we're gonna take some of that wash that we did earlier, which is the mid-tone blue black. We're gonna make it just a little bit lighter so that we can catch his upper lip on. Yep. Just trying to catch his lip here. Just give him a little bit of color there. Okay. All right. So he's looking pretty good there so far. Let me see if I can. Yep. So we're going to come back in now. We're going to add a little bit of color. And then we're going to be done before too much longer here. I think for the face, the only color we're going to add is red. I thought about purple or blues, but I think right now we're gonna stick with red. Okay, so we're gonna make a real thin red with some of our mid-tone in it. Should look about like that. I don't recommend just doing the red. If you just do red, it's gonna be this is we're making this a glaze consistency. If you don't remember what glazes are, check out the glaze video that I have on YouTube, and that'll help you out. I'm testing it over here on the paper towel. I'm wicking some off when I do the glazes. That's in the glaze video though. If you don't know what glazes are, please watch the glaze video. Okay. If you don't wick it off on a paper towel, you're just gonna flood the mini with it, and that's not what you want. Eyebrows when I do hair, yep. All right, so we're gonna come under here and we're going to just hit the bottom of his cheeks with a little bit of red. See, that just gives him a little bit of color. We're gonna do tip of his nose here. Okay. Do that. We'll do some back in here. We're gonna hit the gums a little bit because he does have a little bit of a gum line. If you feel you want to paint the inside of the mouth, I would do that before the teeth. He really doesn't have too much of an inside of the mouth though. All right. Thanks, Sam. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and block in the eyebrows and the hair on his face just because it helps give us an idea of what we're gonna do. We're gonna be using. We're gonna start out next week, and we're gonna use russet brown to start off with that. I think we're gonna go ahead and just block that out real quick. That means just get a layer down so that we can see how the rest of the face kind of reads. Because otherwise we're not gonna get a good idea. How his face reads. So I'm just going to give him the eyebrows here. Okay. He doesn't have a unibrow. For the sake of ogre culture, please don't give him a unibrow. Okay. And then here he's got some hair there. If you feel like your red step went too far, like I think my red got a little too much over here. What you can do is come back in with some of your midtone. Just glaze the line. Just kind of feather and it just looks a little too red places. And then I'm just going to touch up a little bit on my highlight. The face is almost always going to be a little back and forth. You're almost never going to just nail everything the first time on the face. I'm just reinforcing my highlights after the colors. Just hitting these very highest points here, making sure that most ogres would probably have one. I mean, you can definitely give him one. I just don't. It doesn't look right on this sculpt because he has like a ridge between his eyebrows. Like it, I don't think it would look right on this particular sculpt. You are more than welcome to try it. If you try it, by all means, show me. I would love to see the ogre. And then we're just gonna come in here and do his hair. At this point, make sure that you don't undo all of your hard work here. Just paint over his skin that you've done. We're just trying to get an idea. If you get some on the skin, it's not the end of the world. Just clean it up then. I almost always recommend when you clean something up, clean up from your mid-tone, and then work it either up or down. cleaning up from a real dark or real bright can make your life way more difficult. Right, his ears, the inside of this ear over here is probably a little dark, so we're gonna, it's bugging me. We're gonna add just a little bit of our shadow in there, lighten it up a little bit. There we go. All right, and then that's Mr. Ogre. I'm gonna take some better pictures of him. Let me see if I can fix the brightness a little bit so you guys can see it. There we go. Yeah, I should have had it at that level. Dang. Alrighty, and that's how you paint Mr. Ogre. Actually, I keep calling him an ogre. I'm pretty sure he's a hill giant, though. So you'll notice the face is the brightest part on this mini. It definitely should be. Like, your face should be the brightest part, because that's where we're trying to draw the attention. Okay, so you can see we went through, we did the eyes first because they're the easiest to paint. When you do them first, you don't have to worry about trying to be super precise if you get paint somewhere that paint shouldn't be. And then we started, we did midtones then. And then we went up and down into highlights, and you're gonna go back and forth. You're gonna go up, down a little bit. You're gonna play with it. The important part is to let everything dry. Don't play with it too much, or it's going to be problematic. Then we gave him some stubble. We mixed a little bit of our midnight black, which create or nightmare black. I don't know, whatever that color is. Nightmare black. Hill Giants evolved past the unibrow. Love it. And mix that into our flesh color and kind of glaze that over to give him that stubble. If you're really, really anal about it, you can do dots and create the stubble texture, but I would only do that on a piece that I am just really digging on. And then we went back and read, and we added some color under the cheeks, on his nose. We kind of cleaned up any of that that might have affected. We did a little bit of red along his gum lines in his mouth. We did the teeth. Then we blocked in the hair a little bit so that we would have an idea of how it plays with the rest of the face. And I think it looks good. So, yeah, next time we're going to work on hair and I think the fur or the wood. I'm not sure yet. One of those two. All right, guys, questions, comments, anything you liked, didn't like? What are you thinking? Has this been good? Has it been helpful? All right, I'm gonna chill for a moment while you guys let me know anything. Giving him cornrows. Oh, I don't know about that. This is just crazy talk. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post them to the group. And yeah, just enjoy painting. It's I'm gonna put up some better pictures. The camera just doesn't do a great job of capturing a lot of the dark light values on stuff like that. So I think he looks a lot better in person than he does on the camera. Yeah. So, alrighty, gentlemen and ladies, quick question. Will we even out the skin tone later? Evening out any of the skin tone is what you would have wanted done last week. If you've still got splotchiness on the skin tone, if you've got, well, let's put it this way. What do you mean even out? You should have definite dark and light areas and stuff like that. It should definitely not be one color. So I'm going to let you answer that before I answer. That's a good idea on the black and white. I can do that. think you said what I meant. If it still looks splotchy and everything, then that should have been last week. And you use the glazes to kind of even it out and tweak it. Because the week before it should have been left pretty rough, but you have a good idea of what should be dark and what should be light, and then you use the glazes last week to smooth it out and to add color into the mini and add some life. Has the stream been good this week as far as stability? It hasn't been. We haven't had problems with it going slow or anything, right, guys? I think it's been good. If it hasn't, speak now. Tell me. Yay, no buffering. Good. Yeah, I went back and watched last week's stream and I was like, oh my gosh, it's just terrible. Yeah, I show one glitch, I think. But I pulled up Twitch and all it did was like buffer after glitch after glitch, and it just kept dropping. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And my little kilobits per second that it tells me, it should be around 6,000 for what I do. And it was like 400, 1,000, 0, 200, 1,200, 0, like just all over the place. Whereas streaming to YouTube is holding steady at like 6,000, like with almost no variability. So yeah, it's not my connection. Whatever it is, it's a Twitch issue, and I'm tired of fighting it. So all I did was put the chat screen in an entirely different window, not even related to OBS, and then yeah, stream normal. So, alrighty, guys. Any more questions, comments, anything at all? Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful night. Everybody stay safe. I hope everybody is maintaining some level of sanity during all of this virus stuff. It's gotten pretty crazy here. We've had some heartbreaking stories around here, and yeah, I hope everybody is doing well through it. All right, thanks everybody.